Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today we're going to be doing tier list review, where we go over recent tier list changes, and I just give my opinions on that, as well as ask you guys what you all think. And before we get into today's video, let me know which upcoming character you are the most excited for when it comes to just character releases that you are planning to potentially pull for. For me personally, it is 100% the Herta. And lastly, if you guys enjoy videos like these, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and now let's get straight into it. Today we're going to be taking a look at the newest Pride Win changes, as Sunday is now added to the tier list, plus some characters actually changed placements due to his release. So I thought, why don't we go over the tier list today, and also I'll give my thoughts on just Sunday in general, just my thoughts on his value, as well as the characters that did get moved around if I agree with it or disagree. So if we take a look over here, okay, so here we can see Sunday, and if we take a quick look, there has definitely been a good amount of changes, or at least some changes for the most part. And this is primarily the Memory of Chaos tier list that we'll be looking at today. So when it comes to Sunday's placements, as you guys can see, Sunday is in 0.5, which I honestly think this placement is a perfect spot for him for right now. I feel like in the future, some could potentially maybe argue for the tier 0 slot, but I think for right now, 0.5 is really good due to all of the kit capabilities that he has, what he can offer for characters in general. And then also, of course, in the future, he's going to be very valuable for those summon-oriented characters, as we do know that our Remembrance characters will have a summon in their kit. So this will be really good when it comes to Sunday being able to highly amplify their damage output. So when it comes to Sunday's kit, why is it so valuable? The reasons why is that, one, he can advance forward a character by 100% with his skill, similar to a character like Bronya. Bronya and him actually have a lot of kit similarities, but I will say that he does have some additional benefits in comparison to her, and Sunday will of course be able to advance forward not only an ally, but also their summon. And when he advances them forward, he will also increase the damage that they deal. If the character does not have a summon at level 10, it'll be 30%, so a pretty decent damage boost overall. But if the character does have a summon in their kit, so essentially any of the future Remembrance characters, and from our current roster, those that have a summon would include Lingsha, it would include Jingliu, and it would also include Topaz. When it's any of those characters, it will be an additional 50% damage boost, which means Sunday can effectively give a 80% damage boost to characters that have a summon, which is honestly a very huge damage boost, just being able to further amplify their damage output. And what's really nice is that this damage boost will also last for 2 turns. So when he advances them forward, let's say in the scenario of Lingsha, when he advances them forward, Lingsha will act, and then right behind her will be Yuan, which is her summon. Since the buff will last for 2 turns, this can guarantee that of course the summon will also be able to take advantage of that damage boost. So that's a very nice perk that is in Sunday's kit. Plus, when he uses his ultimate now on an ally, this ultimate is pretty versatile due to the fact that he'll be able to regenerate 20% of the maximum energy of an ally, and one of his traces actually allows it to be a minimum of 40 energy given back. So in the scenario of characters that have a lower energy cost, let's say they only had 100 energy cost or 110 for example, his trace allows this 20% of the maximum energy to be a minimum of 40 energy given back. So instead of giving a lower amount of energy that may have been from the 20%, now you'll be able to give that 40 energy to that character that already has a lower cost ultimate, be able to heavily take advantage of this just to have even more ultimate usage. In the case of characters that have very high ultimate costs, for example, Yuan for instance, this 20% of the maximum energy will be very good just for being able to heavily assist with getting closer to using her ultimate. Sunday's ultimate in general is just very versatile, as a lot of characters can highly benefit from just being able to use their ultimates more frequently. Sunday will make that character now the beatified when he uses his ultimate on them, which now means that their crit damage will actually increase by 30% of Sunday's crit damage at level 10, which means you'll definitely want to invest heavily into Sunday's crit damage, but this can allow you now to stack a bunch of crit damage onto a character of your choice, your main damage dealer, whatever it may be. And what's really nice is since he can also use the Ordeal Relic set, this allows you now to give even more crit damage to an ally of your choice, as he will have incredible uptime on the buffs that he can grant with this relic set. As for Sunday's talent, he'll also increase the crit rate of whoever he uses his skill on for 3 turns. And since this lasts for 3 turns, you essentially can have a permanent crit rate buff throughout the entire fight. And for it being a 20% crit rate buff, that is honestly incredible for making it easier to build your characters. Let's say you were trying to aim for 100% crit rate. Well, if you have 80 crit rate already, Sunday's now going to give you that remaining 20%. So you will be good to go when it comes to just being able to get as close as possible to 100% crit rate, or even being at 100% in general. So that's amazing in my personal opinion. He's definitely a great option when it comes to our crit damage dealers, as he will be able to provide them a bunch of crit damage as well as the 20% crit rate. And then on top of that, of course, the damage boost that he will grant when he uses his skill on them, the energy as well from the ultimate. One last thing I thought I'd mention is also whenever Sunday uses his skill on an ally, he will be able to dispel 1 debuff from that ally. So why this is really good, let's say one of your characters got inflicted with a crowd control debuff, then Sunday can actually cleanse this off of them. So that's just extra utility that he has in his skill kits, and overall I would say that Sunday provides quite a lot of value when it comes to being able to amplify the damage output of whoever your main damage dealer is. And I have actually discussed Sunday teams already on my channel, but he has a lot of versatility with who he can be used with. He could be used with Topaz, he could be used with Yuan, he could be used with Lingsha, he can be used with Boot Hill. I've actually used him already with Jingliu. You can use him with Yuan, you can use him with Argenti, and so on. There's just a lot of characters that you can use with Sunday, as he's able to provide very nice benefits for our current roster. But of course, as mentioned, for the future, once we get those remembrance characters, he will be incredible for them as well. One thing I wanted to also mention when it comes to Sunday in general is the 20% maximum energy that he grants with his ultimate. Whenever we get characters that have very, very high ultimate costs, let's say they are a DPS character, whatever it may be, Sunday's ultimate will come in very handy for allowing that character with that very high energy cost to actually be able to use their ultimate more frequently. So whenever we get characters that have high energy costs, Sunday will definitely be able to help out very nicely with that. So overall, I would say that he is in a very good spot right now. Once again, he could potentially go up once we have the more summon-oriented meta. He could honestly end up going up tier 0. For right now, I think 0.5 is very good. He provides quite a lot of benefits that I think are definitely worth mentioning, and just his team versatility is also very nice as well. When I was discussing Sunday, I did mention a couple of characters. So we're actually going to take a look at Jing Yuan. He finally went up. I believe he was either at 1.5 or actually tier 2 prior to this, but now he is in tier 1, which I personally feel like Jing Yuan has definitely been performing nicely with the release of Sunday. Sunday allows Lightning Lore to strike far more frequently, as well as, of course, provide that 80% damage boost, the crit damage, more energy, and then also the crit rate. Sunday and Jing Yuan are an incredible pair because of this, as Sunday just provides so many benefits that Jing Yuan highly wants to take advantage of. I definitely saw this coming, honestly, which I think tier 1 is honestly a decent place for right now. He has been performing pretty nicely in the current Memory of Chaos. Tier 1 is a good placement. I would love to know what you guys think though. Do you guys think he should be maybe in 1.5? Or do you guys think he should potentially be higher? Me personally, I think this placement, as mentioned, is okay. I would also love to see how this maybe changes in the future with the release of more characters, or just when the summon meta also keeps evolving once we get into 3.0 and beyond, if Jing Yuan's placement will potentially go higher or actually stay where it is. I'm really interested to just see how our current summon characters might move around in the future as well. Now, they did actually drop Doctor Ratio from 0.5 to tier 1. I wasn't personally in agreement with him being in the same tier as Akron and Yuan, and I think the tier 1 is honestly a fine placement. Plus, he was only 0.5 below Fei Xiao, which I would personally say that there needed to be a little bit more of a gap between them in my personal opinion. But I would love to know if you guys agree with this change, or if you feel like Doctor Ratio should actually be in 0.5 alongside Akron and Yuan, and only 0.5 below Fei Xiao. Another huge change that they did was actually dropping Jingliu to tier 2. So I feel like this change was a little unnecessary. Maybe she could have just stayed where she was, or maybe could have been in 1.5. I think that could have been fine. I think the thing that a little bit throws me off is that Blade is above Himeko and Jingliu. In the case of Himeko, I did test her pretty heavily in the previous Memory of Chaos, and I would say that she was performing very, very well, especially on side 1. On side 2, I believe I had a somewhat decent clear as well. But regardless, I do feel like Himeko does have very nice Memory of Chaos capabilities, especially when the enemies are fire weak. I do feel like she can put up quite a fight. So I feel like Himeko should maybe be in 1.5 alongside Blade, if anything. But I would love to know if you guys agree with this, or do you guys feel like Himeko and Jingliu are in spots they should be in? I think the 1.5 and tier 2 category is where, like, say I'm a little iffy on the placements. Just personally, when it comes to tier 1, I'm still not too sure if I would honestly agree with Clara only being 0.5 underneath Yunli personally, but I would love to know what you guys think about that as well. If you feel like Clara is in a very good spot at tier 1, or maybe she should be in 1.5. I can see tier 1 or 1.5 a relatively good placement for her, but I'm just not too sure about her only being 0.5 under Yunli. Now, as for the niche character category, Jing Shui did drop and so did Zila. Once again, I feel like they could have just stayed where they are, but their performance in the latest Memory of Chaoses might not have been the greatest, especially with recently of how much HP enemies have now. It has definitely been a lot of HP inflation, if you will, when it comes to the enemies of Memory of Chaos. So you need to be able to dish out more damage and keep up with just how high these HP thresholds are. The problem I can see with Zila in particular is if she's not one-shotting some of the enemies and triggering Resurgence, that can definitely hinder her performance, as now she's not being able to take advantage of Resurgence as frequently due to the HP inflation of the enemies. So I can potentially see that as a problem. This whole category, I feel like the 1.5, the tier 3, is just the iffy category where some things can be changed with different perspectives, as well as potentially seeing just more runs in general when it comes to how these characters are currently performing in Memory of Chaos. But I'd love to know in the case of Zila and Jing Shui if you guys agree with this as well. And if we take a look now at the specialist category, when it comes to the specialist category, I did share my thoughts on this category a bit more in my last video, as nothing has really changed in this category. But what I will say, when it comes to Rappa's placement, I do feel like based on her performance in this Memory of Chaos, as well as the previous Memory of Chaos, I do think she's worthy of being 0.5 at this point. She's been performing very, very well, especially on the second side of the current Memory of Chaos. She's performing very well there. And then in the previous Memory of Chaos, she was doing good on side 1, but she was actually able to still do very nicely against Hule as well. When you are fighting an enemy like Hule and you are using a character like Rappa, you will want someone on the team that can, of course, help out with just reducing Hule's toughness meter as quick as possible, which in that scenario, I was experimenting the most with characters like Gallagher as well as Lingsha. They were definitely helping out with that. I think at least with the release of Fugue, I can see them potentially bumping her up to 0.5, as Fugue will now, of course, have the super breaks in her kit, but she also has the exo toughness, which I know that Rappa will definitely be able to nicely take advantage of the exo toughness. So I think this will allow Rappa to definitely go into 0.5. So I'll be keeping my eye out personally if they decide to bump her up, but I do think 0.5 is honestly a pretty good placement. I would love to know if you guys feel like Rappa should be increased, or do you think she's fine at tier 1? Just in my personal opinion, I think 0.5 is very good. I know that some may actually argue for tier 0. I would say if we see one more Memory of Chaos rotation and she's performing extraordinarily well, then I would say there could even be an argument for tier 0 at that point. But at the minimum, I would say put her in the Apex character category because she does perform very nicely. Now, when it comes to the amplifiers, I don't know if honestly much has changed the last time I went over the tier list. No, okay, from it seems like no. And as we can see in tier 0, it's just Robin Rame. These two are definitely the queens when it comes to just Harmony characters in general. They're able to provide just a bunch of utility and buffs in general for numerous team comps, so they're definitely worthy of their tier 0 placement. And then when it comes to tier 1, we have Bronya, Pela, Sparkle, and Tingyun. I think this placement overall is fine. Them being in the meta characters category, I would say is very nice for them, as they are all very nice supportive options that you can take advantage of when it comes to team building in general. Pela is a very versatile character as her defense reduction benefit many teams due to DPS characters being able to take advantage of that defense reduction on enemies in order to deal more damage onto them. So Pela is very versatile. Sparkle is very nice for the team comps that can highly benefit from the additional skill points, the 50% advance forward, and so on. When it comes to Bronya, same deal. The buffs that she provides, as well as of course the advance forward, is very handy. And then when it comes to Tingyun, she's great for the attack buffs, the damage boosts, and then of course the energy that she provides is very nice, especially for those characters that want to take advantage of their ultimates as much as possible. If you guys disagree with any of these placements, I would love to know. And then for the sustains, okay, so the sustains did have a bit of change. Lingsha is in tier 0, Huahua is in 0.5 now. So personally, I do 100% agree with Lingsha in tier 0. Honestly, it feels like she's an erudition character in disguise at times, because you can literally use her with Sunday and you can run a crit Lingsha, if you will. Once we get Fugue, Fugue and Lingsha is going to be an incredible combo as well, just for being able to deal damage onto enemies. So when it comes to Lingsha's damage potential, it's definitely there, especially when it comes to just breaking enemies, or if you decide to go the crit Lingsha route. That's definitely been very popular as of recently as well. Due to the release of Sunday, he's going to highly amplify Lingsha's damage output. So you can technically use Lingsha as your healer, but also your damage dealer at the same time, or even a secondary damage dealer on your team due to all the benefits that she provides. Lingsha is going to be able to allow your team to deal more break damage onto enemies when she uses her ultimate, as she will inflict befog onto all enemies, and this will allow targets now to receive increased break damage, which is awesome. Yuan will of course be considered a follow-up attack, so when it comes to your follow-up teams, you can use Lingsha there, as she'll be able to help advance forward Numbi. She can help with getting Flying Aureus stacks for Fei Xiao. So Lingsha has versatility when it comes to what team comps she can be used on, aside from break teams, due to the follow-ups in her kit. The general healing that she'll provide, she provides quite a lot of healing. She can also dispel a debuff from all allies whenever Yuan does attack, which once again is her follow-up. So this will be very nice for getting rid of debuffs in general on your team. And then of course she also has an emergency heal. Whenever a character gets to 60% health or lower, Yuan will immediately attack and then also heal up the team, and this can be triggered every 2 turns. So that's very nice utility that Lingsha has as well, especially because if you are building her on the faster side of things and allowing her to go very frequently, now what this allows is that emergency Yuan to be used very frequently if need be, assuming that of course your Lingsha does have a bit of a faster build. So overall, I completely agree with the tier 0 placement of Lingsha. I would love to know if you guys agree with this, but I definitely think it was time for Lingsha to actually get bumped up, especially with the upcoming release of Fugue. I feel like this will definitely increase Lingsha's value even further. Did drop Huahua. She does provide very nice healing, she provides cleansing, and then she also of course provides the energy as well as attack with her ultimate. Which I made this point with Sunday, but the energy that Huahua provides with her ultimate, once we get more characters that have higher ultimate costs, Huahua's ultimate will be very, very handy for them just for more ultimate usage. Plus, Sunday and Huahua is actually a very, very nice synergy, as you will be able to give just so much energy back to your damage dealer of choice. So this is an incredible synergy that you can consider using. So because of that, depending on, I guess, what characters we get in the future, she could potentially get bumped up again. But regardless, I think currently, since she is still in the Apex category placement, this is perfectly fine. And overall, she's still a very, very nice sustain overall. But yeah, I think that's honestly it for this tier list. If you guys want me to go over Pure Fiction or Apocalyptic Shadow, I can definitely consider doing that for a future video as well. And if there's any videos you would like me to make, definitely let me know in the comments down below. And lastly, if you did enjoy this video, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like, support the video. Do let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below, as I like to make these videos just so we can all share our opinions on where we feel like characters should be placed overall. And yeah, I hope all of you have a great one like always. Peace.